trying to do. I don't believe that it's going to fly. And thank God these guys have platforms where I think they can voice their opinions. But make no mistake about it, this DOJ is dirty. And this DOJ, make no mistake about this as well, they're currently working for Kamala Harris. Gabe, let's roll video 3B, por favor. This is Merrick Garland.
Since the 2020 election, we have seen an unprecedented spike in threats against the public servants who do administer our elections. Election officials, workers, and volunteers in communities across the country have been targeted with heinous acts and threats of violence. The following are a few examples of successful enforcement actions that the Justice Department has taken over the past year. In New Mexico, county commissioners and other elected officials were targeted with a series of shootings that the department has alleged in court papers were organized by an unsuccessful candidate for the state legislature who claimed that the election had been, quote, rigged against him. At least 3 of the shootings occurred while the intended victims or their children or their family members were at home. In February, 2 shooters who we alleged were recruited by the candidate pled guilty to carrying out the attacks. In March, the candidate himself was charged in a 13-count
I know it's hard hearing this guy's voice.
Indictment.
Just bear with me.
In Arizona, a man sent a state election official a bomb threat warning that if she did not resign within 2 days, quote, the explosive device impacted in her personal space would be detonated. In March, the man was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for making that threat. In Maricopa County, Arizona, an elections official, a county attorney, and their families were threatened by a defendant who called for, quote, a mass shooting of poll workers and election officials in precincts he believed had, quote, suspect results. His revolting comments included, quote, dead children burn into the memories of people. The county attorney who had been targeted later reported that he, his wife, and 4 children had been assigned round-the-clock protection and issued body armor in response to the threat. And the elections official who was targeted said in a victim impact statement that, quote, while I am the person directly threatened by this case, the impact of such threats is felt by a much larger community, the thousands of committed election workers who operate our democratic processes. When threats are made against any election worker, the impact reverberates throughout the entire community. That defendant was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. In recent months, our enforcement actions have continued. In July, we secured the guilty plea of an Alabama man who repeatedly threatened to kill Maricopa County election workers and officials. In one particularly chilling message, he said, quote, you better not come in my church, my business, or send your kids to my school. You are stupid if you think you are safe. His sentencing is scheduled for next month.
Okay, so that was not the audio that I expected, so forgive me for that. But basically, he went on, Merrick Garland did, to talk about Russia election interference. And the Russia election interference is basically a few conservative influencers, podcasters, if you will. I hate the term influencers, the more and more I think about it. But podcasters were given a bunch of money to run some ads, and they did not know that it was coming it was from Russia, basically, or Russia Today. I'll read you the synopsis of that. Basically, but that tells me that they're scared. It's the DOJ, which has no credibility, the DOJ that's responsible for suppressing, or the FBI, with the help of the FBI, suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. The DOJ, all these guys that were involved in Crossfire Hurricane to try to destroy Trump's presidency. I mean, this is absolutely insane. The DOJ, FBI working with Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it, to suppress the speech of citizens on Facebook and on Twitter, and the like. So these people have absolutely no credibility whatsoever. So you want to talk about election interference? Let's talk about them. But here's what Vladimir Putin had to say before I go to this story real quick. And again, to me, this is evidence that Kamala Harris's campaign is starting to fade. And that's what they're concerned about. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to get the independents to say, oh, I hate Trump even more. Or what they're going to do is try to set up Trump's presidency where it's a bunch of chaos. I've heard people say, and I'm not sure about this. I haven't thought this through, to be honest, but I've heard some conservative commentators say, and I don't think it's necessarily way off. I just need to think it through a little bit, that what they'll try to do is, before Trump gets into office, just not allow him to take office, and so these people would, I don't know what they would do, but it's obvious that these people play for keeps. These people are willing to play dirty. Gabe, let's play video clip. This is Vladimir Putin in cut 2B saying that saying his favorite was Biden, but now since he dropped out, he says we support Harris. She has such an expressive and pictorial laugh that it shows that everything is great for her. Now, let me say this from the onset. This guy is a thug. This guy is a dictator. I could care less if somebody pops a cap in his behind. He's a propagandist. He wants to sow chaos and discord inside of the United States. He wants divisiveness. I totally get that. But I got to be honest with you, too. Let's be real. He didn't attack Ukraine when Trump was in office. He did it when Biden was in office. He also did it. Biden and Harris were in office. He also did it when Obama was in office. He also did it at the end of George W. Bush's presidency. But I give George W. Bush a little more kudos. I shouldn't say kudos. Even though I'm disappointed as I look back, 2020 hindsight on the Bush presidency, I think he took advantage of Bush when there were so many weak-kneed Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly just bashing Bush, and he made a dumb mistake by trying to be a gentleman and not going after him. And then Vladimir Putin saw that weakness. He saw that Democrats had taken control, I believe, of the House and Senate at that time. I could be wrong, but if I recall correctly, and then he took Georgia. He went after Georgia back then in Europe. So anyway, if I recall correctly, hopefully I'm not wrong. I'm going to have to go and check my history. So forgive me. I'll correct it if I am wrong on that. But let's play Vladimir Putin cut 2B. Por favor, Gabe.
Ну, я уже говорил, у нас, значит, фаворитом, если можно так сказать, был действующий президент, господин Байден. И вот его сняли с гонки, но он рекомендовал всем своим, значит, сторонникам поддержать госпожу Харрис. Ну, вот и мы тоже так сделаем, будем ее поддерживать. Это, во-первых, а во-вторых... Раззавещали, значит, надо, да? Вот. А во-вторых, она так выразительно и заразительно смеется, что это говорит о том, что у нее все хорошо. А если у нее все хорошо, то значит, вот Трамп, он же ввел столько количества всяких ограничений и санкций в отношении России, сколько для него ни один президент раньше не вводил. А если у госпожи Харрис все хорошо, то, может быть, она воздержится от таких действий подобного рода. Или сменит их в конечном итоге выбор за американским народом, и мы с уважением будем относиться к этому выбору.
Okay. Wow. All right. So, listen, we know this guy is a propagandist. We know this guy is a stone cold murderer, have absolutely no respect for him whatsoever. But I believe that's truth. Why wouldn't he support Biden? The guy camped out on the border of Ukraine for months on end. Now, you guys may remember this. Back in the day, people were talking about Trump and how Trump was for Russia. Remember, it was Trump that ordered the kill of 200 of their mercenaries, Russia. And then Vladimir Putin was like, oh, my goodness, this guy means business. It was Trump that gave Ukraine, if I recall, tank busters, basically. I don't forget what you call them exactly, to take out Russian tanks, if need be. It was Barack Obama that gave Ukraine blankets and meals ready to eat. All right. So Trump meant business. He didn't want to start any war, but he's like, dude, if you if you mess with me, if you mess with America, you mess with me, you messing with America, and I'm going to show you that I'm not playing. And Vladimir Putin took him seriously. He doesn't have to take Joe Biden seriously. Look at how Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are acting when it comes to Hamas. Hamas literally executed, including a dual citizen of America, Hirsch Poland Goldberg, one of the six Israeli hostages that were murdered in cold blood when the IDF were hot on their trails in some of those tunnels. And then Biden comes out and basically says that Netanyahu isn't doing enough for a ceasefire. How do you to negotiate for a ceasefire? How do you negotiate with terrorists that don't believe in that stuff? I mean, these people are just absolute morons. But I think that Vladimir Putin is telling the truth there. Okay, let me move on. I've been staying on that for a little too long there. Didn't intend to do that. Let me bring you this news. Hunter Biden has also changed his plea. So Hunter Biden pleads guilty. And I got to be honest with you. Hunter Biden pleads guilty to all tax crimes. I think this is a smart move on Hunter Biden's part. I know it's very difficult to hear that. It's hard for me to say. But honestly, if you've ever been or dealt with the criminal system, it's a smart move, particularly when you're dealing with the Democrat Party and they're straight up gangsters. The Bidens are gangsters, too, so they know what it's like. But convicted felon Hunter Biden had to Daily Wire. Son of Joe Biden obviously pled guilty to 9 additional federal charges in L.A. on Thursday related to tax crimes that he committed. The stunning reversal from Hunter Biden, who initially had pled not guilty, came as jury selection for the trial was supposed to start today, but was upended after Hunter Biden's legal team submitted an Al Ford plea in federal court. Now, what is an Al Ford plea? An Al Ford plea allows him to acknowledge the strength of the case against him, accept whatever penalties he is sentenced to, but give him the ability to maintain his innocence. All right. So Hunter Biden reportedly decided he wanted to avoid taking the case to trial because he refused to subject his family to another round of anguish and humiliation after a gut-wrenching gun trial in Delaware 3 months ago. Prosecutors had dozens of witnesses lined up to testify during the trial who expected to deliver, close quote. Were expected to deliver, quote, embarrassing and salacious testimony, close quote, against the president's son. This, according to the Washington Post. The indictment against Hunter. The indictment against Hunter Biden stated that he blew his money on drugs, escorts, girlfriends, luxury hotels. Guys, that's not what it is about. You may have just heard Gabe chime in, and he's absolutely right. Hunter Biden, this is a smart move because, for one, you don't have to expose your dad and all of the corruption that the Biden crime family was involved in. That's one. And you just take the deal because you know your father is the president of the United States and he's going to pardon you. Well, Joe Biden said he's not going to pardon you. Joe Biden said he didn't have dementia. Okay. All right. So I think it's, I hate to admit it, but it's a smart move on their part. That's just something that they're going to do. All right, guys, before I go on, and I'm going to talk about some DEI and offer you a little more evidence that the Kamala Harris campaign is falling off the rails. This does not mean, now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say landslide and all this kind of stuff, but they're just not having the results with her. And I mean, this chick, I don't even know how many days it's been now. I've lost count that she refuses to talk to the media. She refuses to give a legitimate interview. That interview that she gave wasn't a legitimate interview. Supposedly, she sat for like 40 minutes, but they only gave us 16 minutes and something seconds, 29 seconds, I think it was. And I don't think that 16 minutes and 29 seconds was great by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's just absolutely insane to me what's going on with her. I'm trying to find the latest on this shooting because that shooting in Georgia, and I got to be honest with you. Listen, I'm probably going to offend some people saying this. That kid, listen, the fact that a 13-year-old kid could plot a murder like that tells me that something serious was going on in his life. That kid did not have God in his life. The latest is that his father has been, I'm trying to find it. The latest is that his father has been arrested as well. So let me see if I can find this. I don't know why it's not fresh here. Yeah, I don't know why that story is not popping up. I'll check a couple other sites here. I'm sorry. This is me working live, even though this will be taped